The best glass of wine I ever had was probably the glass of wine that made me want to explore this industry as a career. And it was a $2, €2 maybe, that my senora brought home when I was living in Spain. I drank it out of like a tiny little glass. It wasn't even a wine glass. And we sat and drank it together. And I remember her asking me what I liked about it. And I just said, I've never sat and had a meal with somebody and drank a glass of wine. So I was 20 and living abroad for a summer. And it was the first time I actually felt that connection to a product like that.
Over a bottle of wine, under a tropical sky, a typical tropical atmosphere, all his heart could hear was a sigh.
I grew into wine as a passion very organically. I think just by working in the field, it kind of made me fall in love with it as I was learning more about it. I'm from a small town in the East Bay of California called Danville. I went to school at UC Davis. So I was surrounded by wine almost my entire life, but it wasn't until I spent a summer living in Spain that I really fell in love with the history and tradition and practice and the art of creating and making wine. So my company is called AW Direct, and we are both a producer and an importer of wine. So what that means is we produce domestic product. We have 3 wineries in California. We have 1 in Oregon. And then we partner with wineries from all around the world, primarily focused on like the New World wines. So Australia, California, New Zealand, South Africa, Chile, Argentina. And then we do some more like classic, like France, Spain, Italy, the big 3. And a typical day is making cold calls to new customers, new clients. It's working on existing projects. It's closing deals, making sure that you're always going after new business, but maintaining your current customer base. It is not as romantic and glamorous as they make it sound. There is a lot of schlepping and a lot of hearing the word no all day long. I'm often the only female in a room. It's definitely got its perks. It's a really social industry. It's a lot of fun. So my first Wine Spectator grand tasting experience, which is like this big hoorah in the industry where you have an opportunity in the trade to taste some of the greatest wines that are produced every year. And it was the first time I was able to taste all 5 of the first growths of Bordeaux, which are seemingly in the wine world like the highest classification that you can award to a vineyard. It was a really kind of eye-opening experience. We have been growing and producing wine in California for a very, very long time. Many of the amazing producers like the Turleys or the Ridge, the Ridge Vineyards, or the Mondavi family. Some of these early pioneers have been growing and producing for decades. What makes a good bottle of wine? It's a little bit of a romantic answer, but I think that it comes down to the people who make it. If it was somebody that told me, but it stuck with me for a while, that when you drink a sip of wine or of anything really, that's, I guess, been produced for you, you have to think about, not just like the bottle itself and the varietal and the vintage and the alcohol level, but think about the hands that it passed through to get into that bottle to you. You start with like the farmers who are tending to the land, the viticulturists, the cellar workers. There's so many people involved in it. Have that respect when you approach it, and you'll never find a bad bottle. Food and wine are very much connected. Like most things in life, they're better together. We always like to tell people, if you're just getting into it, it's always best to like grab a bottle of wine and cook something that you enjoy with it and see how it changes like your perspective and your enjoyment. Yeah, I would say that most Latina and Latino and Hispanic representation is on the production side. It's in the vineyards, it's in the cellars. Not to say that's any less important than being on the, on the sales side or the quote unquote business side. I don't think it's just Hispanics that are misrepresented. I think it's women. I think that it's all people of color, really. It's because I think wine has had, and maybe truthfully and honestly, the stigma of kind of being like, an old white man's club for so long. It's never been seen as like a down-to-earth beverage, if that makes sense. Much like where beer can be like for the people of the people. It's a little bit more approachable in that sense than wine has ever been perceived. I think as our country evolves and grows, you're starting to see a lot more diversity just with young people coming into the field. So I'm happy to see that. I don't know if this wine's going to be on the market for much longer, but the Jolie Pitt wine Miraval is actually quite good. The rosé that they produce, they partnered with the family that produces Beaucastel. So they're a very renowned family from France. Because that was what I'm most surprised about. You know, it's kind of one of those things you're like, they're kind of selling out. I don't really want to enjoy this, but I found it to be pretty well produced. If you want to learn about wine, you just have to drink it. And it's very true. The more you drink, the more you'll know, responsibly, of course. The one movie that I'll always watch if I see it on TV is Pride and Prejudice. I just love the character of Elizabeth Bennet, and I think Keira Knightley gives her this like ferocity and this tenacity that it was so expressive in Jane Austen's writing. My favorite book, well, Harry Potter, because it was like the first series of books I think I read on my own growing up, and it just like, I just remember feeling like anything was possible reading those novels. Brideshead Revisited, I've read that book probably like, I don't know, 30 times. I just finished the new Childish Gambino album, which I thought was really cool and different. Totally strayed from his like last album, which was much more like hip hop focused. This one is a little bit more like classic rock and punk and a lot of like Hendrix kind of inspiration. And oh, the new John Legend album, of course. I have 4 siblings. We are 4 girls and 1 boy.
But who's your favorite?
Oh my gosh, do I have to answer?
Well, today.
I'm probably closest with my sister Katie, just because we're the closest in age. And for as opinionated and as judgmental as she is, she's never that way with me, so I appreciate it. But on any given day, yeah, they probably rotate through. My brother is definitely my dog's favorite, though. My name is Nicki Rabago, and I am working in wine sales for a wine producer and importer.
Oh, that tropic air was to blame. They knew it was foolish to resist, ay, ay, ay. And so they kissed, ay, 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 never dreaming of tomorrow.